Welcome to the Autism ADHD Podcast. It's the place to be for neurodiversity affirming parents and professionals. I'm your host, Holly Blanc Moses, the mom neurodivergent therapist. Here we chat about emotional regulation, mental health, social support, executive functioning, learning, and more, all aimed at empowering us to support kids and teens with compassion and understanding. I'm thrilled that you joined me today, and I've got some pretty exciting news to share with you. For those rock star therapists listening right now, I've created continuing education training that is tailor-made for you. Take a deep dive into cutting-edge strategies that you can start using today. The CEs you've wanted for so long are finally here. Go to hollyblancmoses.com/CE training and sign up. You are going to love it. The link is also available in the show notes. Now, if you are a parent or educator listening and you know a therapist or a psychologist that is passionate about supporting kids and teens, I greatly appreciate it if you could pass on this great news. Thanks so much again for your support, and let's get started. Welcome back to the Autism ADHD Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Blanc Moses. Today, we're diving into something that can truly be life-changing. School supports that actually work. And here's the thing. I've created this episode based on what you, parents, therapists, and educators have been telling me you need help with. We're going to break down 5 specific school supports across communication, sensory needs, executive functioning, mental health, and social interaction. Now, before I get into support number 1, I want to mention something I'm so excited about. A guide that I just created. It's 135 school accommodations and modifications for autistic and ADHD students. I also provide a real example for each accommodation or modification. Parents are going to love this. Educators are always looking for ways to better support their students. There's all kinds of great ideas in this guide. Therapists are also going to love this guide because they can take accommodations and modifications and talk with their client about what might work for them. Don't miss it. I'm going to have that link down there. It's going to be on sale for $9.97, but that is going to go up to $27. So you want to make sure and get that today. All right, support number 1, communication. This is often where everything falls apart. And it's not because a student isn't doing a good job of communicating. It's not because teachers don't want to help. It's not. It's because it's just breaking down. So imagine this. You're the student. You're in class. The teacher gives instructions and you didn't catch it. Your brain is busy. It is lightning speed all the time. Everything gets your attention, everything outside of you and everything inside of you. But you look around and everyone has this idea of what to do. Everyone heard the teacher. Your anxiety spikes. You don't want to look stupid because kids have called you that before. You also don't want to interrupt the teacher because you've been in trouble for interrupting before. So you sit there frozen. Now the assignment becomes impossible because of that anxiety. That was definitely me when I was in school. That's why I think communication cards or self-advocacy cards, if you want to think of them that way, are a game changer. Here's how it works. The students have laminated cards on their desk. I need help. Please say that again. I need more time. Can you show me how to do it? When they need support, they simply hold up or turn over the card. No speaking required, no hand raising required, no public vulnerability. Verbalizing a need in real time is cognitively and emotionally exhausting. Communication cards can remove that barrier, or at least some of it. Here's an example. Let's say a student is working on a math worksheet and just gets stuck. So instead of shutting down, they flip over their card. Can you show me how to do it? Is the card they flip. The teacher sees it, comes over quietly, and provides the support without the student even having to speak to get the teacher's attention. This is dignity. This is access. This is equity. And here's the beautiful thing. Once students have a way to communicate their needs that feels safe to them, they actually start communicating more. The cards become a bridge to using words when they're ready and they feel more safe. Therapists and educators role play using these cards so the student feels more comfortable using them when stress hits. They are not the only student in the room, teachers will tell you that have questions, but they're scared to ask. So when a neurodivergent student sees that other students are also asking for help, because they will be more likely to ask for help if they have another way to communicate, it just becomes what happens when you don't know how to do something. Support number 2, scheduled sensory and regulation breaks. This is something that is absolutely critical for neurodivergent students, but it gets overlooked often. I'm going to talk about why. When a student, for example, is constantly asking to go to the bathroom, wandering around fidgeting, or seeming off task, they may be dysregulated, overwhelmed. Their nervous system is screaming for a break, but they don't have a built-in way to do it. They don't have a built-in way to get what they need. Now, of course, if someone has a GI difference, that could be another sign if they're going to the bathroom that maybe they do need to be evaluated and their parent needs to know. But a lot of times, neurodivergent kids will see that's the only way to become more regulated. I had a client not long ago tell me that she has to go to the bathroom. It's her only escape, her only way to get it together for a few minutes so she can go back into that class. What I'm talking about is scheduled breaks, not if you need it, not when you're melting down, because that's probably too late then anyway. It's proactive, not reactive. Maybe a scheduled break looks like 5 minutes between each subject, or even a 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe the student can walk to the water fountain, sit in a calming corner with headphones, use a fidget, step outside the classroom for a moment, and then come back in. The student can use, here's communication again, a break card on their desk to turn over if they need an additional break outside that scheduled break. The reason why this is so important is by the time a neurodivergent student realizes they need a break, they're often already overloaded. Scheduled breaks can prevent that from building up. It's like stopping for gas before the tank is empty instead of waiting until you're stranded on the highway. These breaks give students a predictable way to regulate their nervous systems throughout the day, which means fewer upsets, fewer meltdowns, fewer times that they're wanting to leave the class. When I was younger, I often asked to leave. I needed to move. I needed to walk. I needed less of the flickering lights. What I was trying to do was not fall apart. My brain needed those moments to reset. I really wish that I would have had scheduled breaks, because then I wouldn't have needed to always try to find these escape routes. Now, what I'll hear from some teachers and parents is, what if they abuse it? What if other kids want the same thing? What if they're always trying to leave? What I say to that is, if a student is always trying to leave a class, the answer isn't trying to prevent them from leaving, unless it's an unsafe situation, of course. It's, why do they want to leave? Why is that classroom so difficult? What is it about the content? What is it about peers in that class? What is it about their medicine not being in their system? What is it about that time of day that they need to leave? That's where we should look. Those are the questions we should be asking. Not, let's not let them leave because they'll abuse it. When that question comes up again about abusing it, here's another thing that I think. Accommodations aren't rewards. Accommodations aren't rewards. They're access. A wheelchair ramp is not a reward. It's what someone needs to get in the building. Accommodations are what kids need to be able to feel safe, to be able to learn, to be able to participate. Again, breaks are built in. They're not a privilege to be earned. They're part of the student's day. And if the student needs an additional break outside their scheduled break, they have their break card. They can turn it over silently. The teacher nods, the student takes their break. Maybe a quick walk, again, to the bathroom, maybe just stepping outside the class for 60 seconds. Now, some anxiety can come up for kids when they know they need a break, but they are scared to leave the classroom because they may miss an instruction. They may miss important information. So something lovely, I think, about breaks is that you can have a break together inside the classroom. Maybe it's a movement break. Maybe it's a sensory break where you sit where you need to sit, or if you need headphones on. What that looks like is everyone understanding themselves better. That self-awareness goes up. It means that you're not bad if you take a break. It helps that child know that being in tune with themselves and what they need is an important thing. That can help later with understanding what they need when they're older. It can help with emotional regulation, understanding that I need to take care of myself right now, because if I don't, if I'm not able to, if no one lets me, then I'll explode. And then I'll be in trouble. Unfortunately, that's what many students go through every single day. Again, going back to the concern about missing classroom content, if a child has a scheduled break, that teacher already knows when it is. So then they don't have to worry about missing content. They can be provided the content they need. And again, sometimes it can be scheduled where it's in between subjects or there's some sort of transition period. Number 3. This one is about writing because writing is one of the most common areas where neurodivergent students struggle. ELA is something I hear all of the time. It's because translating those ideas, even coming up with the ideas that they think the teacher wants them to have, can be stressful. Say you're coming up with ideas already, putting them on paper. That's a lot of executive functioning skills happening at once. Organizing thoughts, sequencing, motor planning for handwriting and typing, spelling, punctuation, grammar. It is exhausting. I used to dread English class. Now give me a paper and I could write about my interest and I will knock that out. It will be exciting and awesome, but that's not usually what they get to do. This is where chunking assignments with model examples and daily feedback becomes a game changer. And here is what this looks like in practice. So instead of the teacher saying, write your 5-paragraph essay by Friday, they do something different. First, they provide a completed model example that the student can see. If I would have had this when I was in school, I can't explain to you what a massive difference this would have made in my mental health and my anxiety. If I could have just seen this completed model, because it's like translating your language into another language, but you don't know the other language and nobody really is clear about the language they want you to use. Again, first, providing a completed model so the student can see it. Second, they break the assignment down into chunks. Third, they check in on each chunk and provide feedback before moving forward. So let's just come up with a topic real quick. The teacher provides a completed sample essay on a different topic, not the one that is being assigned. Let's say the assignment is, I don't know, write about your favorite season. The model sample might be about my favorite hobby. So the student can see how to start the first sentence of a paragraph. My favorite hobby is drawing because it helps me relax. I know I keep coming back to this, but it's almost I'm experiencing the anxiety that I had in English growing up. I just dreaded that class. When I had a writing assignment, I cannot tell you the amount of time and energy it would take me to come up with the first sentence. And I'm not talking about characters and assuming what characters are thinking and what they're feeling. That's all incredibly difficult. But even structuring that first sentence, I would just freeze with anxiety. Okay, I'm going to say that again because I interrupted myself. How to start the first sentence of a paragraph, how to add detail sentences, how to end a paragraph. So again, the student can see the sample. So the visual model shows the student the structure without giving them the answers. It's not making it easy for them. It's making it doable for them. It's helping them to learn how to write. They can see what a complete paragraph looks like. That may not seem like a big deal to other people because they may easily be able to do that. Well, a lot of neurodivergent kids can't. And I know I couldn't. So let's break it down by day so it's not completely overwhelming. The daily chunks: Monday, brainstorm ideas and a graphic organizer. Tuesday, write your introduction paragraph. Remember, there's a sample there. Wednesday, write your first detailed paragraph. Thursday, write your second detailed paragraph. Friday, write your conclusion. So here's the magic. After the student completes Tuesday's chunk, just the intro, the teacher reviews it and provides specific feedback. Maybe the teacher says, great topic. Can you add one more sentence about why you like this season? Or I love your idea. Let's work on the sentence together to make it even clearer. Then the student revises before moving on to Wednesday's chunk. And this is why it works. So instead of writing the entire essay and then realizing at the end that it's all wrong and feeling completely defeated, hating English, the student gets real-time support. They're building success bit by bit. They're not drowning in the overwhelm, and they're actually learning what this writing looks like, what the teacher is expecting, because they can see it in the model. They can refer back to the model. Let's, for instance, think about a younger student. Let's say it's a second grader writing about their weekend. So the model provided on Saturday, I went to the park. I played on the swings with my friend Emma. We had so much fun. After the park, we got ice cream. So now the student can see first sentence, what I did, middle sentences, what happened, the details about it, last sentence, how I felt or what happened next. Maybe Monday's chunk is drawing a picture of what you did this weekend. Tuesdays, write one sentence about what you did. The teacher checks it, and tomorrow we're going to add where. On Wednesday, add one sentence with more details. Teacher checks it and gives immediate feedback. This is removing the mystery. And I think mystery is a good word to use. It removes the paralysis. It gives the student an actual roadmap. Again, it makes the assignment doable. Going from impossible, melting down student who doesn't understand what they're being asked to do, to giving the roadmap which makes it possible. Okay, support number 4. This involves group work. And let's be honest, if you're neurodivergent, you probably know what I mean. Group work can be an absolute nightmare for neurodivergent students. The social demands, unclear roles, sensory overwhelm, peer dynamics, it's a lot. Oh, and a quick tip. One of the toughest things about group work is that moment when the teacher says, pair up. I would want to run out of that room because I knew what that meant. Everyone is going to pair up with their friend. Everyone knows who wasn't picked. That was me. When you're that kid or those kids that are not chosen, you stick out. Everyone knows. You're not included. No one thought of wanting to work with you. Nobody thought of wanting to do this together with you, to pair with you. No one even thought of you. These are the kids that look confused, that don't know what to do. They're the ones left. And then the teacher has to figure out what to do with them because no one chose them. These are your children. These are your students. These are your clients. Those educators right now who are listening, please take your beautiful neurodiversity affirming approaches and help other teachers. If educators knew the negative impact of this, they wouldn't do it. I really believe that. I don't think they would continue to do that if they understood how devastating, embarrassing, humiliating, and anxiety provoking it is. I know teachers are overwhelmed. I know they are, but taking a little bit of time thinking through the pairings before group work can be incredibly helpful. Again, group work can be a nightmare for neurodivergent students. You've got some people that are going to do all of the work. Some people are going to do none of the work, and you can't control it because you all have to work together. The answer is pre-planned, individualized group work accommodations. Here is an example of how this can work. At least a week before a group project, meet privately with a neurodivergent student because peer fit matters. It matters so much. How many students? Maybe it's 2 to 3 instead of 5 to 6. What role the student will have. I think looking at group projects where each person has a role is such a great way to do this. maybe researcher versus presenter, how grading will work. Will it be individual or a group grade? That can be incredibly stressful. And the student gets input. The student gets a voice. The student is working with the teacher on a plan. This is why it works. The anxiety around group work often isn't even about the actual work. It's about the uncertainty. Who am I going to be with? What if they don't like me? What if they're a bully to me and I never told anybody and the teacher doesn't even know this person has bullied me? What if I don't know what to do? What if I mess up? The more we can remove the uncertainty, the more we can reduce this barrier. For example, a student who struggles with speaking in front of the class, maybe they feel more comfortable being assigned as the materials manager or the researcher instead of the presenter. And they can still participate meaningfully, but in a way that aligns with their strengths. Maybe a student has social anxiety about being paired with peers who have been unkind to them. I mentioned this earlier. In the pre planning meeting, the teacher can learn about this. They can understand the history. For example, who would you not want to be paired with? It's important to note the accommodation should also include the option to work independently if group work is not appropriate for them. And if they do work independently, they're graded on demonstrating mastery of the content, not on doing the work of 4 students. They shouldn't be punished for working independently. What's lovely about having a pre-planned meeting is figuring these things out. That way the student feels safe because some of these groups being paired with other kids is not safe. 5 minutes of pre-planning can make a massive difference for them. It's a wonderful thing to show that what they think and feel matters. A great exercise in self-advocacy. Now on to support number 5. Probably my favorite because it has to do with mental health. What I'll see sometimes in my clients' IEPs and 504s is a check-in. It's a check-in with the counselor or check-in with the special education person, check-in with the case manager, check-in with someone. Most of the time, these check-ins are supposed to support academics and mental health. Check-ins are fantastic if used in the correct way for that individual child. When it's not used specifically in a way that works for that child, that aligns with their communication and their needs, it can feel like a waste of time. Maybe the student comes in for the check-in and they don't really talk about anything. When the counselor asks them, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" They'll just say, "Fine." So we need to remember this is a great accommodation for so many kids. We just need to use it in a way that works for them. And often where I see the breakdown is it happens without communication supports. So notice I said with communication supports. It's not, let's just talk. How are you doing? I mentioned this earlier. Many neurodivergent students struggle to verbalize their needs, especially when they're stressed. When they're stressed, their ability to communicate just falls to the floor. When we give them written sentence starters, suddenly everything opens up. It's actually amazing. I use it all the time in therapy. I want to give an example of what this might look like. Again, every child is different, so keep that in mind. When a school counselor, a trusted teacher, sits with a student for 10 minutes and uses this communication support, you will not believe the beautiful things that happen. the information that you're going to get. And here are examples, a few of them. The hardest class for me is blank because blank. Think about it. It's a game changer. With that starter sentence, because starting the communication is really hard. It sounds like it shouldn't be an issue if someone is using words. It is. Of course, you can use visuals, you can use all kinds of things. But in this example, I'm just giving these verbal prompts that are also written. So say the school counselor says, the hardest class is, and then stops talking. They can write it in, they can say it with their words. Then the school counselor says, because, and they'll give additional information. Another one that I am obsessed with is I wish my teacher would. You're starting that for them. And then they fill it in because they've had this thought before. They just maybe didn't know how to start it, didn't exactly know who to tell and when. I wish my teacher would. I know lots of educators would really want to know the answer that the student would give. Here's another one. I think I could learn more if. I think I could learn more if. Or I think I would learn more if this happened. And that's what's lovely about it is we are gathering information from this student who may not otherwise tell us this information. They're typically not going to come up and say, the hardest class for me is this because of this. What accommodations can we put in place? They're not going to do that. That's why this is so powerful. Here's another one. And this one is more about social interaction. The last time a kid in this school was mean to me, they what? Or the last kid that was mean to me was, this is game changing. I cannot tell you what it would have been like if somebody would have said this to me because I got bullied a lot. And then if I told, don't be a tattletale, just ignore them. That's not what we should be telling them. Okay. Because then when people are bullying them, they're going to think that they can't tell because they'll be a tattletale. Or if they do tell, they're not going to be taken seriously. So they just stay quiet. Another one, this week I felt blank when blank. Another one, this week I felt happy when. And then they fill it in. This week I felt sad when. This week I felt mad when. Again, they can fill it in verbally. They can just tell you the answer and then you record it, or they can write it in themselves if that feels better to them. This accomplishes lots of things, but number one, it gives the student a safe, structured way to communicate what's happening for them. By giving them these sentences, you're already telling them it's okay to tell you. You're giving them permission. You're allowed. I want you to share this with me. I want to help you. I want to learn more about you. Number two, it gives educators and counselors this real-time data on what's actually working and what's not, where a student needs more support. And you will be surprised what comes up, what the answers are. Here's an example. The educator, the counselor, whoever is saying the starter sentence, the hardest class is, and the student says math, because the problems are too long and I don't have enough time to finish them. Boom, there it is. We now have this amazing information, this way we can pinpoint helpful supports. The educator now knows that we probably need to reduce the number of the problems. This student may need more time. Here's another example. The counselor starts the sentence, this week I felt worried when, and the student finishes, when we had a substitute teacher because I didn't know what to do. I was really worried about my teacher. I thought she was sick. Now the school knows here is a gap. We need to provide support for this child who is so worried every time she has a substitute because she doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't know if her teacher is ever coming back. This is a great example of learning what this child is feeling and why. Now we know it can be helpful to present a social story about when her teacher isn't there and she has a substitute. Brief 5, 10, 15-minute check-ins can literally change a student's entire school experience because then adults can understand better what's actually happening in their world and what they're going through. Okay, I hope those were helpful for you. There's so many wonderful supports that can change a student's experience for the better. I mentioned this earlier. I have created that 135 school accommodations and modifications guide for autistic and ADHD students. It's not just a list. Every single accommodation includes an example, and I cover so many things: academic supports, sensory supports, environmental supports, executive functioning supports, self-advocacy supports, social supports, mental health supports, and emotional regulation supports. So whether you are a parent trying to figure out how to help your child in school, you're getting ready for an IEP or 504 meeting, maybe you're a therapist who is working with a child who's struggling in school, this could be wonderful for you as well. Maybe you're an educator looking for practical strategies. You can use this guide as a roadmap. So make sure you go down below because it is on sale. For a limited time, it is 50% off. You can get 135 school accommodations for only $13.98. It's regularly $27.95. So you want to make sure and run down and get that right now. Trust me, I think you're going to love it because every student deserves to be heard. Every student deserves to have their needs met so they can learn, so they can participate, so they can feel safe. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the Autism ADHD podcast. If this was helpful for you, please share it. I would love that. It would mean so much to me. Share it with another parent, therapist, or educator. And don't forget to come on over and hang out with me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'm all over the place. Make sure to join that parent Facebook group or the therapist and educator group on Facebook. Until next time, let's keep advocating, keep working together, keep showing up for the neurodivergent kids in our lives. Take care. Bye-bye. If you found this podcast helpful, I greatly appreciate it if you could take a second to give it a 5-star review. With your positive feedback, I can continue bringing you free, valuable information. As an extra thanks to you for sticking around, there are special gifts waiting for you in the show notes. You'll find links to free resources on supporting neurodivergent kids and teens with social interaction, emotional regulation, and more. So come on down to the show notes and get your free resources. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
All content provided is protected under applicable copyright, patent, trademark, and other proprietary rights. All content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. No content is intended to be a substitute for professional medical or psychological diagnosis, advice, or treatment. Information provided does not create an agreement for service between Holly Blanc Moses, Crossvine Clinical Group, the interviewee, Holly Blanc Moses LLC, and the recipient. Consult your physician regarding the applicability of any opinions or recommendations with respect to your symptoms or medical condition or the symptoms or medical condition of your family member. Children or adults who show signs of dangerous behavior toward themselves and or others should be placed immediately under the care of a qualified professional.